Midnight on New Year's Eve turns normal adults into temporary stunt coordinators with champagne budgets, borrowed confidence, and exactly 1 minute to prove they should not supervise candles, rooftops, group chats, or credit cards. These are the countdown decisions that looked festive at 11:59 and looked criminal by 12:01. 1. When the countdown hit 3. A guy in Phoenix tried to saber a champagne bottle with a kitchen knife he had just rinsed in the sink. The glass lip snapped first, the cork stayed put, and the bottle dumped foam across the charcuterie board and his white shirt. He entered the new year holding a knife and apologizing to Bree. 2. Outside a townhouse cul-de-sac. 2 neighbors jammed a Roman candle into an empty beer bottle and aimed it like a tiny artillery piece toward the street. The bottle tipped on the second shot. The candle started firing sideways, and everyone in folding chairs suddenly discovered Olympic-level sprint form. Lawn decorations took the opening volley. 3. At a crowded bar in Chicago, a woman kissed the wrong man because both guys wore the same gold novelty glasses, and both were yelling over a remix of Auld Lang Syne. Her actual date watched the entire mistake from 6 inches away while holding her coat and phone. Midnight lasted 30 seconds, and the silence lasted 6 days. 4. Near the appetizer table. 3 finance bros climbed onto the bar for the countdown because the stools didn't feel legendary enough. 1 heel hit melted ice, 1 elbow caught a hanging light, and 1 full tray of shrimp slid onto a stranger's blazer. Their only shared achievement was falling in expensive shoes at the same time. 5. In a suburban living room, someone fired a giant confetti cannon directly under a ceiling fan because the packaging promised maximum spread. It delivered. Metallic paper packed itself into the fan motor, showered the queso, and drifted into every drink within 10 feet. The ceiling fan redistributed the celebration to every wall. 6. After yelling, "New Year, new me," 4 adults jumped fully dressed into a hotel fountain that was ankle-deep, coin-filled, and colder than their courage suggested. 1 phone died on impact, 1 heel stuck in the drain grate, and security arrived before anyone completed the group selfie. The fountain kept their wishes and their room keys. 7. While fixing her bangs in the bathroom mirror, a party host sprayed aerosol glitter hairspray beside 2 lit sparklers jammed into a cupcake. Fine propellant vapor catches fast when an open spark stays close, so the flash singed the towel edge and made everyone in sequence smell faintly toasted. She started January 1st fanning her own head. 8. In a condo kitchen, a man burned 12 frozen pigs in blankets at 11:58, pulled the smoke detector battery at 11:59, and forgot the oven was still on at 12:03. The second tray went fully black, the apartment filled with gray haze, and the countdown video looked like evacuation footage. Guests toasted through a fog bank. 9. Before midnight in a Vegas sportsbook, one accountant decided the cleanest way to change his financial energy was betting the January rent on a same-night parlay. Final leg died on a meaningless missed free throw 12 seconds after midnight. He rang in the year staring at a red betting app and a very confident landlord portal. 10. Beside boxes of old paint and a space heater in the garage, a couple tried to toast privately with champagne because the house felt too crowded. The cork hit a hanging metal shelf. The shelf dumped dusty holiday bins, and a gallon of old glitter exploded across the floor. The garage welcomed the new year first. 11. Right as the ball dropped, a tired dad opened a furniture app and bought a massage chair that looked like a wise investment in peace. By 12:11, he had also added white glove delivery, stain protection, and a matching side table he did not remember choosing. Morning arrived with a receipt long enough to qualify as betting. 12. After 2 tequila shots and 1 speech about rebirth, a bridesmaid in Nashville walked into a 24-hour tattoo shop and requested 2026 but elegant on her wrist. The artist asked twice, she nodded twice, and the final numbers leaned downhill like they were evacuating. Her first resolution became learning about long sleeves. 13. On an icy rooftop in Brooklyn, 3 co-workers backed toward the ledge for a skyline selfie because they wanted more fireworks in frame. Rubber soles lose grip fast on frozen tar paper, so one man windmilled into a vent pipe and dropped his phone into a lower balcony planter. The skyline remained calm and fully employed. 14. Past midnight in a shopping center parking lot, a pickup owner tried celebratory donuts while his friends filmed from the bed of another truck. The pavement still held a thin drizzle sheen. The rear tires broke loose too well, and the truck kissed a cart return with the confidence of a guided missile. Even the shopping carts looked judgmental. 15. After midnight in Miami, a guy mixed champagne, pre-workout powder, and an energy drink because he wanted to party with intention. Carbonation drove the foam straight up. The caffeine hit before the alcohol settled, and he vomited pink liquid into a decorative planter beside the elevators. The planter got the first honest review. 16. Over a dance floor in Denver, someone rigged a homemade ball drop from a disco ball, fishing line, and a plastic storage bin full of ping pong balls. The knot slipped early. The bin dumped during the countdown at 7, and the crowd spent midnight slipping on neon plastic spheres. The room looked like a failed sporting goods robbery. 17. Before the toast in Dallas, a man packed dry ice into a sealed cooler full of canned cocktails because he wanted spooky vapor when the lid opened. Gas pressure rises hard in a closed container once sublimation builds, so the cooler lid launched upward and slapped the garage ceiling. Guests applauded first and then noticed the crack. 18. From a karaoke booth in Cleveland, a recently divorced banker used the final 10 seconds of the year to call his ex and sing the first line of their old road trip song. She answered on speaker while already at another party. By the chorus, 3 strangers had heard enough context to pick sides. 19. Across a quiet HOA street in Texas, a resident released a sky lantern because fireworks were banned and he wanted something classy. Open flame climbs until wind gives it a new address. So the lantern drifted straight into a dry pine and hung there glowing like a legal issue. The homeowner's email thread began before the ash did. 20. At a downtown hotel, 2 attorneys decided the decorative lobby fountain would be the perfect place for a polar plunge but glamorous. Marble gets slicker when dress shoes hit water, and confetti sticks to wet fabric like evidence tape. One man slid under a bronze swan and came up missing a loafer. Hotel Marble remembers every bad idea. 21. In a half-packed apartment bathroom, a woman leaned into the mirror and blasted an air horn to create cinematic midnight energy for her reel. The tile room bounced the sound straight back into her own skull. She dropped the phone into the sink, and the clip captured only a scream and faucet noise. Her followers got realism. 22. Across an office lounge rented for a private party, somebody used a battery leaf blower to launch loose confetti like a stadium entrance. It worked too well. Paper dust blasted into hummus, laptops, and one executive's open champagne flute, then kept cycling through the HVAC like a festive rash. The cleanup crew entered the year on hard mode. 23. Near a dining table in Street, Louis, an uncle set a full indoor fireworks cake centerpiece between candles and a cheese board because the box said safe for celebration. It spit sparks sideways, scorched the table runner, and sent 12 adults ducking behind folding chairs with paper plates on their heads. Bree should never need cover. 24. Right before midnight, a man in a chicken costume wearing a huge Happy New Year hat charged a last-second fireworks bundle to his card, tucked one rocket under his arm, and started sweating about his wallet before the receipt even printed. Card processors clear fast after midnight. He rang in January dressed like poultry and checking bank alerts. 25. When surge pricing jumped at $1,200, a guy in Atlanta bailed out of his rideshare at a red light and announced he would just walk 1 block to beat the algorithm. He forgot the glitter boots, the open container, and the fact that the next block was uphill. Surge pricing waited exactly 1 block. 26. Beside the buffet in a rented hall, 2 cousins stacked a champagne tower on a folding card table because Marble Rentals felt too corporate. Weight concentrates fast on a cheap plastic hinge. So the middle bowed. The top glass slid, and the whole arrangement collapsed into a sparkling ankle trap. The toast reached the floor first. 27. Out at a marina in Tampa, 3 friends carried plastic flutes onto paddleboards because they wanted midnight on the water. But peaceful. 1 bottle pop startled the closest board. 1 wobble traveled through the rest. And all 3 toppled into Black Harbor water, fully clothed. Peaceful ended exactly where buoyancy began. 28. In a snowy Minneapolis duplex, a wellness coach threw open every window at midnight to let the old energy leave the house. The old heat left with it. By 12:14, the pipes beneath the kitchen sink were clanking. The cat had disappeared into a blanket fort, and every guest was wearing their shoes again. Spiritual airflow has utility costs. 29. At 12:02 inside a casino, ATM vestibule, a man who had already lost his cash limit decided the new year technically counted as a fresh budget cycle. He withdrew more money under fluorescent lighting while sequined strangers congratulated themselves in the reflection. Morning found him holding chips, receipts, and the expression of a man audited by neon. 30. Along an apartment fire escape, a bassist dragged out a giant speaker for a private countdown soundtrack because neighbors needed better taste anyway. The metal stairs vibrated. The amp slid one step at a time, and the feedback squeal hit every window on the block. The fire escape became the world's loudest tuning fork. 31. After midnight in a Phoenix cul-de-sac, 4 friends announced a one-shot per time zone challenge, even though they had already been drinking since dinner. Alcohol stacks slower than confidence and faster than balance. So by Hawaii, they were arguing with a recycling bin and saluting a mailbox. Geography did not deserve that treatment. 32. On a back porch in Ohio, a host dumped all the party leftovers outside for natural refrigeration because the fridge was full of mixers. By 12:40, a raccoon was dragging half a ham across the snow, while 6 adults watched through the glass holding champagne. The wildlife entered the new year with a better buffet. 33. Over a condo sprinkler pipe, an amateur decorator looped streamers and winter lights because it sat exactly where the room needed visual height. The pipe was not a beam. When someone tugged one strand for a better drape, the sprinkler head cracked loose and turned midnight into an indoor rainstorm over velvet couches and charcuterie. 34. Inside a startup office borrowed for a party, an intern set a confetti popper beside 3 open laptops streaming the Times Square countdown. Static and paper dust love warm vents and exposed keyboards, so one machine froze, one live stream died, and one key came off with a cube of brie. Innovation entered the year sticky. 35. At 12:06 in a rooftop bar, a woman signed her lease renewal on her phone because her landlord had texted, "Just so we both have peace of mind." Champagne foam still coated her fingers. Autocorrect changed one line of the address, and she sent it anyway. Her signature dried faster than her judgment. 36. Near the coat rack, a newly single guy bought 12 non-refundable festival tickets for friends who had not agreed to go, simply because the midnight discount timer was blinking red. By breakfast, 4 were broke, 3 were busy, 2 were not music people, and 1 had blocked him for unrelated reasons. Group planning should never start with tequila. 37. At a downtown hotel, 2 cousins pushed a shopping cart into the elevator for a high-volume champagne supply run because the lobby market stayed open late. The front wheel locked halfway out. The bottles clinked like a warning bell, and the manager watched them reverse in shame through mirrored doors. Luxury lost to grocery store logistics. 38. In a suburban foyer, a woman attempted a cartwheel in sequin boots because someone yelled, "Give us one iconic moment before January starts." The left heel stuck to the runner, the right leg kept traveling, and her purse launched lipstick across a family portrait wall. Iconic happened, just not in the direction she intended. 39. Near a cluster of helium balloons, a man lit a cigar from the gas stove because all the lighters had vanished into party pockets. The flame caught ribbon ends, the balloons jerked upward, and melted plastic dots rained onto a fruit tray. Midnight smelled like tobacco, sugar, and a warranty dispute. 40. Off a second-floor balcony in San Diego, a guy threw an old side chair onto the curb while shouting, "Out with the old." The chair clipped the railing, spun backward, and smashed the string lights he had meant to keep for next year. Gravity handled the year-end donation. 41. Before the kiss in Milwaukee, 3 former college swimmers sprinted into an icy lake for a quick, disciplined cold plunge while their phones stayed in jacket pockets. Cold water steals hand control fast, so zippers missed. Screens fumbled, and one expensive phone dropped straight through slush beside the dock ladder. Their discipline ended in the lost and found of nature. 42. On a glass coffee table, a self-help podcaster burned handwritten bad habits in a decorative brass bowl to release patterns with intention. The bowl got hotter than the coasters, 1 ash sheet floated under the couch, and 6 guests stomped at sparks while trying not to spill prosecco. Healing should not require shoe marks. 43. Above a crowded roof deck, Someone flew a drone through fireworks smoke for a heroic countdown shot and forgot that visibility works both ways. The feed went gray. The drone clipped a patio heat lamp, and the final footage looked like war coverage inside a salad bar. Everyone still posted it with core memory. 44. In a downtown condo, a man decided 12:01 was the ideal moment to move his giant television alone so the living room could feel open for the new year. He tilted too soon. The bottom edge bit into hardwood, and the screen caught the corner of a marble console. The room opened directly into repair estimates. 45. Beside a DJ booth in Houston, one guest shook champagne like a podium winner and sprayed the crowd during the first beat after midnight. The foam hit cables, decks, and a laptop nobody there could afford to replace. The DJ booth wore the first toast. 46. Around a ceiling fan in a rented cabin, two men zip-tied plastic noisemakers to the blades because it'll scream every time we hit the switch. It did once. Then one horn flew into a lampshade, another hit a cheese plate, and the third spun off into darkness like a tiny haunted torpedo. Engineering had left the party. 47. In an apartment parking garage, a resident launched fireworks because the concrete ceiling made the colors feel bigger. Low clearance trap smoke magnifies echoes and sends sparks back toward the audience. So within seconds, everyone was coughing beside parked luxury cars under a sprinkler warning sign. The garage provided all the special effects. 48. At a cramped kitchen island, a woman microwaved 12 lucky grapes inside a champagne flute because some comment section claimed warm fruit improved manifestation. The thin glass heated unevenly, cracked across the bowl, and dropped sticky grape skins onto the microwave plate. Her abundance ritual produced one wet appliance and a very confused fiancé. 49. Between midnight and 12:09, a man opened 14 browser tabs and bought a complete Numi starter pack that included supplements, journals, resistance bands, blue light glasses, and a cedar cold plunge bucket. Morning delivered the shipping emails before the hangover ended. Reinvention had excellent checkout flow and terrible timing. 50. In a glitter-covered apartment, a guest poured craft glitter into the vacuum canister because she wanted the carpets to sparkle when we clean tomorrow. The motor shredded it into fine dust and blew silver particles through the hallway vents like an art school sneeze. The vacuum coughed sparkle through every room. 51. Out in a barn venue, a former mascot operator used a CO2 shirt cannon to fire mini liquor bottles across the dance floor during the countdown. The first bottle skipped off polished wood. The second bruised a folding chair, and the third exploded a ranch dip bowl. Promotional energy should never be pressurized. 52. At a rooftop lounge with no coat check, a man stuffed his keys into a blazer pocket, draped the blazer on a heater rail, and spent midnight too busy filming fireworks to notice it slide behind the unit. By 12:20, security had flashlights. He had panic sweat, and the city still looked cheerful for absolutely no reason. 53. In a driveway lit by fairy lights, a guy stepped onto a hoverboard with a full flute of prosecco because he wanted to glide into the year. Small wheel platforms hate driveway cracks and loose gravel, so the board stopped. His torso kept going, and the drink completed a perfect forward arc. Elegance got traction tested. 54. In an upstairs bathroom, somebody gave himself a midnight haircut with a beard trimmer because every new year apparently deserved symbolic removal. Half the guards slipped off. One side rose an inch above the other, and his first January selfie required a beanie, a side angle, and dishonesty. Personal growth should not buzz. 55. At a packed house party, a newly single accountant downloaded 3 dating apps at once and pasted the same opening line to everyone in his contacts link suggestions. 2 matches were real, 1 was his coworker, and 1 was payroll. Autofill sent his love life to payroll. 56. Back in a small apartment after midnight, a guest parked an e-scooter in the living room and plugged it into a cheap extension strip already feeding speakers, lights, and a fondue pot. The strip clicked, browned, and shut down every decoration at once. January began in total darkness and processed cheese. 57. In a hotel hallway outside the ice machine, 2 cousins tried to rinse a full seafood tower with bucketed ice water because they wanted to reset the smell before bed. Meltwater spread faster than their towels. Shrimp slid under the vending machine, and a woman in slippers witnessed the entire operation without blinking. Class ended at room service. 58. At the edge of a country club golf course, 4 partygoers hopped the fence for a better firework angle and forgot fairways get soaked after winter watering. Wet turf removes friction long before drunk legs adjust, so one man skated downhill on dress shoes and stopped in a bunker face first beside a flag. Private property offered texture. 59. Around a parked convertible, friends dumped spare confetti into the open cabin because the owner bragged the car could handle a little celebration. Wind found every seam by the drive home. 3 days later, he was still pulling a metallic paper from the cup holders, vents, in one deeply personal place under the seat track. 60. Near the kitchen pass-through, a prankster swapped sparkling cider for white vinegar in 2 identical bottles just before the midnight toast. The couple clinked, swallowed, froze, and spent the next 10 seconds making offended eye contact with the ceiling. The joke smelled like salad all night. 61. In an overloaded apartment elevator, a crowd hit every floor button for luck during the final 10 seconds and kept jumping for the countdown video. The cab lurched, stopped between floors, and trapped 12 adults with party hats, champagne breath, and exactly 1 week bar of service. Nothing says fresh start like fluorescent panic. 62. Along a bathtub rim filled with cleanup supplies, a tired host lit scented candles while wiping glitter off her arms with alcohol-based remover. Volatile liquid flashes easily when flame sits low and close, so a washcloth edge flared. She slapped it into the sink, and the mirror kept recording everything. Beauty prep became firefighting content. 63. In a condo hallway after midnight, 3 lawyers raced on office rolling chairs because someone insisted adulthood had enough dignity already. 1 wheel caught the runner, 1 chair spun into the wall, and 1 rider slid backward into the shoe rack like a human invoice. The security camera received premium New Year's programming. 64. At a luxury gym open 24 hours, a man in loafers and a velvet blazer stepped onto a treadmill at 12:01 to prove his resolution had 0 delay. The belt started faster than his shoe leather could negotiate, and he shot backward into a stack of foam rollers like rejected luggage. Commitment deserves sneakers. 65. In a backyard under string lights, a couple climbed into a stock tank cold plunge holding cigars because they wanted discipline and decadence. The water stole the breath, the cigars fell in together, and both tiny orange tips hissed out beside floating ice. The stock tank kept the cigar anyway. 66. Over a bathroom sink in New Jersey, a woman trimmed her bangs with kitchen scissors 5 minutes before taking her first clean photo of the year. She leaned too close, cut too high, and spent the next hour trying to negotiate with a headband that wanted no part of the situation. 67. Across a velvet sectional soaked with spilled champagne, someone tossed his phone during the countdown so he could catch his partner with both arms. Liquid bridges contacts fast when chargers. Remotes in wet fabric meet in 1 cushion trench, so the phone flashed, buzzed once, and went black. Romance beat battery life by a landslide. 68. At 12:09 in a condo kitchen, a man tried air frying lobster tails because the steak plan had failed and pride needed 1 more at-bat. He forgot the shells curl, the butter drips, and the smoke detector had already been disabled earlier. The apartment smelled like a pier concession stand inside a dryer vent. 69. From a couch fortress of coats and throw pillows, a tipsy graduate student drafted legal paperwork to change his full name because this version feels more cinematic. He chose a middle name he could not spell twice the same way, emailed it to himself, and went to sleep satisfied. Bureaucracy woke up far less inspired. 70. At 12:03, a group chat found a limo ad promising cash discount, no deposit, immediate pickup, and one friend actually booked it for an after-party flex. The car never came. The number stopped answering, and the payment app showed a cheerful confirmation screen. The limo ad vanished before the champagne did. 71. In a brick fireplace, a couple fed every handwritten regret from the year into the flames at once because slow symbolism felt inefficient. Paper lifts in hot drafts before it fully burns, so glowing scraps flew out, landed on the hearth rug, and sent 6 people stomping in sequined shoes. Closure floated straight back at them. 72. In an apartment stairwell with great echo, somebody borrowed a megaphone from his car trunk and shouted the final countdown through all 12 floors. Doors opened, dogs barked, one slipper flew from somewhere above, and the building learned his name through volume alone. Acoustics should require a permit. 73. On a wet patio in Seattle, a creator set up a ring light during drizzle because rain plus fireworks equals art. Water crept into the power cord junction. The light blinked like it had opinions, and the whole stand toppled into a planter during the countdown kiss. Her masterpiece ended as a short circuit. 74. Across a hardwood kitchen, a host balanced a champagne flute and a lit candle on top of a running Roomba for a self-driving toast. The robot found a rug edge, jerked sideways, and dumped both cargoes under the dining chairs. Automation performed exactly as asked and nowhere near as hoped. 75. At a boutique hotel, 4 guests slipped into the service elevator to reach a locked upper terrace with no tourists, just skyline. They reached security instead, still holding a stolen ice bucket and 1 room service spoon. The service elevator delivered them to security. 76. In a rec room decorated with vinyl banners, a dad used a heavy-duty staple gun to rehang a drooping sign while everyone shouted numbers from 10 down. Metal fasteners ricochet when they hit hidden brackets at bad angles, so 1 staple pinged off the wall clock and dropped into the dip tray. Maintenance entered with salsa. 77. In a half-lit bathroom at 12:18, somebody mixed bleach and toner in a cereal bowl because January deserves platinum. Her roots went orange, 1 eyebrow picked up collateral damage, and the emergency beauty supply run happened in a parka over a cocktail dress. Reinvention should not fizz. 78. At a packed club, a sweating guest pulled an emergency exit for just 10 seconds of fresh air while the countdown confetti was still falling. Alarms screamed. Cold air blasted in, and every nearby bouncer turned in the same direction at the same time. Ventilation has a very loud legal department. 79. Along a suburban cul-de-sac, 1 man rode a skateboard, while another towed him with a golf cart wrapped in battery lights. The board hit a storm-drained seam. The rider sat down at highway embarrassment speed, and the golf cart dragged his dignity 30 extra feet. Neighborhood joy should not involve towing. 80. In an overloaded farmhouse sink, a host stacked every plate, tray, and champagne bucket because future me can face 1 giant problem instead of many small ones. The stopper slipped, the tower shifted, and a sheet of gray water spilled onto the floor and under the fridge. The sink clocked out before the party did. 81. Around a layer cake topped with plastic stars, someone jammed sparklers between the decorations because regular candles look too humble for midnight. Spark fountains throw hotter particles than icing suggests, so 1 topper curled, 1 corner blackened, and the frosting tasted faintly electrical. Dessert arrived with special effects and consequences. 82. At the top of a snowy hill behind a rental cabin, 4 adults shoved a giant pool inflatable downhill because they wanted 1 last summer feeling before January settled in. The tube spun, clipped a mailbox, and dumped everybody into roadside powder like thrown laundry. Nostalgia traveled badly on ice. 83. In a neon-lit Vegas chapel district, a couple paid a non-refundable deposit on a novelty ceremony package because they thought it would be funny content and something to laugh about tomorrow. Tomorrow arrived with emails, terms, and 1 mother already calling. Comedy occasionally prints paperwork. 84. Beside a beach grill after midnight, a man dumped lighter fluid onto gift wrap and driftwood because the bonfire felt too philosophical and not enough dramatic. The flame jumped. The smoke turned ugly, and everyone backed up while 1 flip-flop melted into the sand. Romance lighting requires less accelerant. 85. At an airport hotel, a consultant changed his Monday flight at 12:07 because he decided the room rate after New Year's Eve was personally insulting. Change fees, seat fees, and last seat pricing piled on before the app finished spinning. The airline kept the fee and his dignity. 86. In his own crowded house, a host printed a giant QR code that said midnight cover charge and decided to start collecting from late stayers as a joke that sounded less like a joke every minute. Payment apps timestamp instantly, so 3 people actually paid and 4 more left offended. Commerce killed the mood on site. 87. In front of a neighbor's Ring camera, 2 tipsy men screamed Happy New Year Gary into the doorbell at full volume because Gary never came to parties. 1 step backward onto a slick welcome mat. 1 grabbed the wreath, and both disappeared below frame together. Surveillance captured the apology before Gary heard it. 88. At 12:01, a woman launched a daily podcast for the entire new year and recorded the pilot episode on her phone from a laundry room for better sound. She spent 40 drunk minutes naming enemies, mispronouncing sponsors she did not have, and knocking over detergent. Some projects deserve a sober pre-production meeting. 89. Along a quiet block, a guy leaned on his car horn every minute after midnight because he believed neighborhood participation should be mandatory. By 12:11, the battery sounded tired. By 12:14, it sounded ill. And by 12:20, it sounded like a duck under a blanket. Civic spirit should never need jumper cables. 90. At a frozen pond after midnight, one friend used a rake to fish out a champagne bottle somebody had dropped near the edge because glass is expensive and closure matters. The handle snapped. The bottle rolled deeper under thin ice, and 6 adults watched it drift like a glowing bad decision. The horn died before the neighborhood forgave him. 91. Over a vanity mirror, a woman hot-glued a sequined mini hat onto an expensive wig because hair clips looked too predictable for January. The glue cooled faster than placement improved. One patch stuck crooked, and the wig came off in one stiff, dramatic unit during the toast. Glamour surrendered to adhesives. 92. In a smart home living room, a software engineer rebooted the Wi-Fi at 11:59 to fix glitching light strips before the midnight reveal. He forgot the speakers, camera, thermostat, and app-controlled bulbs all depended on the same network. The house greeted January in darkness, silence, and 68 degrees of betrayal. 93. At a polished dining table, a couple tried the 12 grapes tradition at full speed while laughing too hard to chew like adults. Wet fruit, champagne bubbles, and rushed swallowing turned the lucky ritual into a coughing fit that sprayed the charcuterie board. Prosperity should not leave skid marks on brie. 94. On a ladder in the foyer, a man replaced the wall clock batteries at 11:59 because he wanted the strike of midnight to feel mechanically honest. The tiny screw slipped, the back cover fell, and the ladder wobbled just enough to send him hugging the wallpaper. Precision timing entered the year sideways. 95. In a suburban front yard, someone dragged the Christmas tree to the curb while it was still plugged into the porch outlet because 1 year out, 1 year in, the cord caught. The stand flipped, and the tree skidded across the walkway, trailing half the lights with it. The curb got a lit farewell. 96. In a hotel room with thin carpet, a guest used the room iron to flatten a wrinkled party banner because he needed one clean group photo before bed. He set the iron down face first for 1 second too long and branded a beige rectangle into the floor. Hospitality met branding in the worst possible way. 97. Around a Bluetooth speaker in a packed kitchen, a sentimental cousin grabbed the mic and began reading his old journal entry from the previous New Year word for word. By the third paragraph, 2 people were crying, 3 were trapped by politeness, and 1 had quietly turned the oven timer on for distraction. Memory should come with editing. 98. Inside a garage-turned-party room, a couple loaded glow sticks into a pickleball launcher because the fireworks ban had forced innovation. The machine spit neon tubes at folding chairs. 1 shot hit the garage opener, and the big door started rising on its own during the countdown. Sport met architecture at speed. 99. By a row of dying houseplants, a host poured leftover punch into a ficus because she said nothing from the old year should be wasted. Sugar water, citrus acid, and rum soaked the soil until pink liquid bled from the drainage tray onto the hardwood. The plant entered January sticky and insulted. 100. During a backyard live stream, a guy read comments daring him to do one bigger finale and pushed 3 fireworks racks closer together for the camera. Tube spacing matters once side sparks start crossing, so the racks chain-fired sideways. The stream caught full panic audio, and patio cushions took the finale personally. The internet always requests one more bad idea. 101. At 12:17, in a kitchen full of empty glasses, a man decided his first responsible act of the year would be deep cleaning the blender after margaritas. He added soap and hot water, hit puree, and forgot the lid. The blender painted the cabinets first. A phone lock screen reading 1200, a half-burned party hat, and a bank alert arriving before the hangover does are the real New Year's fireworks. Which midnight mistake gets deleted first in your town? The video, the receipt, the text, or the security footage? Subscribe for more.